Good morning, welcome to my channel where I provide a little analysis of topical cases. Today we are talking about the really tragic case of Monique and Spencer Tepe. This was the married couple that was murdered in their homes on the 30th of December. And they were found very, very quickly, within a couple of hours or even an hour of Dr. Tepe. He was a dentist. Within an hour or so of him not showing up at work, his people, his workmates and friends were worried about him, and they made several calls to the 911 operator. Now, there's been some controversy about those calls because the operator was extremely dismissive of the friends' concerns, but the friends knew that this guy was not the kind of guy just to miss work or not to come in. He was just really reliable. Anyway, 911 sent a policeman out. He went to the wrong address. They reported back all was well, but the friends didn't wait. They actually went to Dr. Tepe's house, and one of the friends managed to gain entry, and we're not sure how he managed to gain entry. But when he gained entry, he called 911 again and said, there's a body, and there's blood. So not sure how he gained entry. Anyway, so it was obviously very distressing. A young married couple murdered in their home, and they had two children. One who was just under a year old, I believe, and the other was a 4-year-old. And they were not harmed in the incident. And there's some indication that something happened with them. Maybe they were put into a room, closed into a room, locked into a room, somehow dealt with, it is believed, by the murderer, so that they didn't witness or interrupt what was happening. And so when those friends arrived at the house the next day, they heard the kids screaming. Now, an arrest was made within 11 days of this incident happening, and that's pretty quick. And the person arrested was the ex-husband. Now, the lady's ex-husband. Now, that doesn't really surprise people very much because often it is the ex. But in this case, it's really unusual because they had been divorced for nearly a decade. And the guy drove hundreds of miles across the country. I think they said it was a 6-hour journey or a 3-hour, I think it was 6 hours that he drove to get to the house to commit this murder. Now, much is being made of the fact that there was no signs of forced entry, is what they said. So they're not sure how he got into the house. However, my question is, how did the friend get into the house the following day? Because they didn't say he broke in. And so maybe there was some kind of I know they had an electronic keypad, so there was a code for the door. Maybe the ex-husband was wily enough to find that out from another friend. This couple had parties at their house frequently, so I don't know, it could have been that. And they know, they put the estimated time of death around 3:52 a.m., which is very precise. And we think it might be because of the keypad on the door or because of video surveillance in the area. A man was seen walking around in the snow, shuffling, as they say, in the snow just around the time of the murder. So what evidence do they have against this person who's been arrested, the ex-husband? He is a doctor, a surgeon, vascular surgeon. He and Monique were married very, very briefly. They were married for 7 months and then separated for a year, and then their divorce was finalized. So the family have been very quiet, which I think is a good thing, being cautious and quiet. But reading between the lines, something terrible must have happened for the marriage to be ended so quickly. There is speculation that there was domestic violence or some other kind of issue between the two, but there's nothing confirmed at the moment. So putting on the legal analysis part of things, what is going to happen next? Well, he's been arrested, and he's made a first appearance in court as well. This is the ex-husband. His name is Dr. McKee, and by all accounts, fairly nice guy. Neighbors thought he was fine. So what evidence do the police have against him, and how is that all going to play out? Well, they say they have a car that is tied to Dr. McKee that was in the area at the time of the murders. So that's obviously going to be virtually impossible for him to explain away unless he says somebody else was driving it. I don't know what they mean, a car connected to him or associated with him. Does that mean, it doesn't sound like he owned the car, so maybe he hired a car, maybe he borrowed a friend's car. So the defence is going to come out swinging and say, well, he might be connected to this car, but he wasn't driving it. They do have that video surveillance of the man shuffling along, and so there might be some, it might match his gait, but of course that's that's not definitive of anything. Perhaps he left some DNA at the scene. They haven't revealed that yet. So the murders happened. Monique was shot once, and her husband was, they say, shot multiple times. I'm not sure what that means. Some shell casings from the gun were found at the scene, so they might have fingerprints or DNA from that. But of course, the main thing, the main thing in many of these kind of cases will be the geolocation. So where did the alleged murderer's cell phone ping? Does he have GPS in his car? Does that track him across the country? So how they knew that the car was in the area was that they followed the video surveillance of this guy that was shuffling in the snow, and they were able to follow him through various videos leading to a car, and then that car somehow is associated with him. Of course, there's license plate readers, which put him sort of on a route from his hometown to where the murders happened. And it's a very unusual, and people are trying to get their head around why after 10 years would this man now murder his ex-wife. She'd been married to the dentist, Dr. Tepe, for about 5 years. They'd had, the one child was 4 years old, the other one was about a year old, and they were quite, they were quite sort of vocal. They lived part of their lives on social media, and so I can only imagine that he was simmering when he saw the beautiful video of his ex-wife's wedding. It's very, very unusual for somebody to hold a grudge for that long, but it does show that in cases where somebody has escaped a relationship that was unsafe, things can go south even many years later. So the alleged murderer has been, he's been charged with, he's been charged with aggravated murder, which is like murder in the first degree. It's the highest form of murder. One of the things that the defense sometimes will argue and say, oh, well, it wasn't planned, the guy just snapped. Well, they don't have that defense available to them here because, of course, he was in the car for 6 hours driving to his ex's place. And so it was very much the opposite of a spur-of-the-moment thing. And there's no other reason for him to be in that area. Other digital evidence that they might also have would be fitness apps. Fitness apps have become quite a crime busting tool in the recent years. It could be the killer's own fitness app, where that the GPS on it might have placed him at the location at the time, might have shown a spike in heart rate, but also the couple who were murdered. Their fitness apps could show what time their sleep was disturbed. Now, just circle back to the question of there was no sign of a break-in. That, to me, it frustrates me when police say it must have been someone they knew because there was no sign of a break-in. Well, there are many ways to get into somebody's house. And, burglars do it all the time. Burglars will pick locks and get into people's houses all the time. Sometimes people can get copies of people's keys. You lose a bunch of keys and then it turns up a couple of days later. If that person had been stalking you and, you were at the coffee shop, you left your keys on the counter, you got up to grab your coffee, your keys are gone, you might not even notice they're gone, the guy goes and makes a copy and then just drops the keys back at the coffee shop or at the gym where you think you lost them. There's many, many ways. Of course, burglars get in all the time by picking locks. And this couple had, as I said, the lock code kind of thing. And I just recently stayed in an Airbnb with one of those electronic lock codes. And my husband and I were just a little bit freaked out. We were saying, I wonder when last they changed the code. And I wonder how many other people know this code. So it's not an indicator that always that the victim knew the perpetrator. Also, in this situation, if the guy came to the door, well, it seems that he did, in the early hours of the morning, would they really have let him in? It just seems a little strange. So from the legal perspective, the guy is now, he has been arrested, and he's going to be going through the legal process, and the police are obviously continuing the investigation, continuing to search for further evidence, and he is innocent until proven guilty, but this one seems to be a fairly straightforward one, and it just couldn't please me more that police are jumping onto these things so quickly these days and able to get such a quick arrest, get the person off the streets. And what is he looking at in terms of jail time? Well, 2 counts of burglary probably, 2 counts of aggravated murder, maybe 2 counts of child endangerment for putting the children in danger. He's not going to get out of jail. He might try the insanity defense if that's available in that state. But even so, yeah, it takes that kind of planning and forethought to go to somebody's house to do that, to drive all that way. So he's not going to see the light of day. There is technically the death penalty available, but in that state they haven't exercised it for a long time. So it's one of those states where it's put on hold every now and then for various reasons. So probably death penalty might not be on the table, but thankfully my analysis is that this guy, it was just a jealous, destructive ex-husband who had one of those feelings of, if I can't have you, nobody can. And he's going to be in jail, I believe, for the rest of his life, where he belongs. Please let me know your comments on this one. Let me know if you've heard of it. And also let me know if there are any other cases you want me to cover. Sending you blessings